Good evening, all. Welcome to Employment Law Today. I'm Eric Sauver from the law office of Eric M. Sauver. I'm the host of the show. We meet here each week on TalkRadioNYC with special guests to talk about three main topics for businesses, and we have three main goals for business owners listening tonight. So the main topic of our show is employment law, all the rules and regulations and aspects of it that you, as a business owner, ought to be up to speed on and following, but particularly these days in times of the pandemic. The pandemic has created new regulations, new rules, and it's also impacted how previously existing employment laws impact business owners today. So with that in mind, our show seeks to inform, and educate our listeners. We also want to inspire you all by having guests who are in professional services that can help your business with issues such as financial counseling or accounting, HR consulting, or cybersecurity. And also we tie it back to employment law as well. And lastly, our show is, one of our hopes is to be a motivating factor, because during these times, we all know it can be very rough to keep one's excitement and one's motivation going. So we have guests on the show who are inspirational in terms of having their business thriving during these difficult times of the pandemic. So with that backdrop about employment law today, I'd like to welcome our guest tonight. He's a fellow host of his own show on TalkRadioNYC. He's also a Renaissance man I've gotten to know recently as a colleague and friend with numerous talents. And his name is Stephen Frey. I'm going to read a little bit of an intro about him, but first I want to just say Steve, welcome to the show.
Great to see you, Eric. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. So if I may just introduce you to our guest, and of course, feel free to add whatever you'd like. As I mentioned, folks, my guest tonight is Stephen Frey. Stephen is the National Sales Manager at Extensis Group, a dedicated HR and payroll outsourcing solution. And Extensis specializes in custom-tailored workforce solutions for small and medium-sized businesses, including personalized services for HR, benefits, payroll and taxes, employer risk, employee management, recruiting, compliance, and leading HRIS technology. And as a small and medium-sized business, also known as SMB, consultant to thousands of organizations and their trusted advisors over the past 2 decades, Steve brings a unique perspective on people, process, and products, the 3 Ps, for today's SMB leaders. In addition, Steve holds securities and insurance licenses, which can be very helpful in communicating the appropriate messages between business owners, their staff, and their trusted advisors. Finally, Stephen is, as I mentioned, a fellow podcaster here on TalkRadio.NYC. If you're looking to end the week, there it is on Always Friday with Stephen Frey, your SMB guy. So if you're looking to, and I'll read the rest of that, from Weekend Insight to Monday Impact. If you're looking to end your week with some relevant business discussion in preparation for a great week ahead, then you're looking for Always Friday with Stephen Frey. So you can count on Steve for an informative, entertaining show dedicated to harnessing creative solutions for the issues that small and medium-sized businesses wrestle with in 2020 and beyond. And I will attest to that point, having been a guest on Stephen's show not too long ago. Steve, once again, welcome to the show. Good to have you on today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I would say I feel the freedom of the weekend coming, but let's call it the freedom of the evening. Remember, it's always Friday with me.
That's right. Okay, there you go. That's the benefit of being with Stephen from Always Friday. Yes. So Stephen and I discussed the topic of relevance today. I had thought about the topic of PEOs and the pandemic and decided on a sort of a change of that topic a bit, or magnifying it a bit, to talk about PEOs and HRO models for businesses. Mainly, Stephen, to talk about the differences between a PEO, of course, a professional employment organization, an HRO, human resources outsourcing model, and how that might apply to different businesses. And we'll also talk about Stephen's own philosophy and the philosophy of Extensis and how they distinguish themselves in focusing on people and process and products rather than just commodities or seeing this all from a product-based perspective. So, Stephen, with that segue, I wanted to ask you maybe my first question for the evening for us to talk about. Can you tell us the difference between a PEO and an HRO model for businesses?
Yeah, sure. So, PEO stands for Professional Employer Organization. And, it's a term that gets passed around, sounds like a bunch of alphabet soup. And really, it's an all encompassing human resources outsourcing solution. The way that I relate PEO is my father is a retired New York City Board of Ed teacher, and he was part of a union. And my wife, she's actually an attorney as well. So you're in good company. She's a deputy in the Attorney General's office for the state of New Jersey. She belongs to a union. So when you belong to a union, they tend to handle a lot of the administrative burden on behalf of the professionals in the union so that the professionals can really focus on their passion and focus on what they're doing. And again, when you have that many folks as part of a collective group of people, it does give you some economies of scale, some bargaining power with trying to get certain employee benefits in place and maybe certain perks for the folks as part of the pool. It gives everybody a collective purpose and seeking a common goal again, so that folks can focus on their passion and focus on their job while having a lot of the administrative burden and benefit administration and things that are revolve around risk and compliance handled on their behalf. A PEO is a very similar concept in that small and medium sized businesses don't always have the fortunate circumstances where they can be part of a union or an association to do a lot of things on their behalf so they can focus on the reasons they became an SMB in the first place. So a PEO, gives those types of folks the ability to, kind of become part of a group of employees, again, to realize some of those economies of scale and to, offload some of the administrative burden tasks that, tend to get employers and their senior leaders working in the business as opposed to on the business. So differentiating the major types of human resources outsourcing models, again, talking about PEO, kind of like almost like creating a union for small to medium sized business. In order to be accepted into that type of community, it comes with levels of underwriting, like just like you would get a life insurance policy or a mortgage for your home. Not everybody's situation looks exactly the same. Every business out there has a particular set of circumstances. So the PEO, you have to be accepted into that community. So it's almost like the PEO, the vendor in question, the service model, they're bringing you into their world. Okay. So again, that comes with certain levels of, is it the right fit? A lot of times, coming into the professional employer world, employer organization world, you tend to think of what's a good fit there. Figure, roughly 2 to 100 employees, white collar, low risk types of businesses, favorable demographics. Nobody's sick with terminal illnesses, nothing unexpected under the hood, like basically something that's squeaky clean. The same way that you would go to apply for life insurance, you want to get the best rating and the best types of pricing for it, or go for a mortgage. You want to have an ideal credit score to get, the most favorable rate and terms on the mortgage, for your home. It's a very similar type of concept where you get put through an underwriting process to make sure you're a good fit. And the reason for that is because, again, you're becoming part of a pool of employees. So the PEO wants to make sure that you're a good fit. Okay. And a lot of that underwriting revolves around the risk side of things. Is the industry, if it's a trucking industry or construction, general contracting, HVAC, those can be more labor intensive and carry with them certain workers comp types of exposures and other types of risk, types of issues, need significant safety and loss control. And then there's also the underwriting piece that revolves around the health benefits. A big attractive point of PEO solutions is, to achieve economies of scale and receive comprehensive health insurance at a lower cost. While that's very often a door opener for the PEO conversation, it's very rarely why people actually move forward with it, and it's definitely rare that that's why they stay with a particular solution. And again, it kind of goes to my thought process around the idea of, I like to be conscious of products and know how to navigate the world of products, ever-changing products, technologies, apps, etc.
Sure.
But there's no substitute for kind of knowing the right people and having the right process. So, a lot of times what opens the door, traditionally for PEO types of discussions, it might not necessarily be the ultimate reason that it's a long-term solution. So, with that in mind, differentiating as you had asked, a human resources outsourcing solution, an HRO or an administrative service option, an ASO, the
Mhm.
main, difference between, the two types of solutions is, on the PEO, you're under what's referred to as a co-employment arrangement, meaning that the PEO they act as the employer of record. They'll do tax reporting on their federal tax ID number, things like that. With an HRO type of option or an ASO, administrative service option, type of offering, the client that's utilizing the services, they remain the employer of record, but they still get, some comprehensive services, again, revolving around human resources side of things, the group benefits consulting and administration side of things, risk and compliance work from both a state and federal level, as you in the legal field well
Right.
realized. Sometimes state law can supersede federal law, so depending on which state you're doing business in, the rules
Right.
might be a little bit different. And then, going into things like a human resources information system, a technology. Again, I kind of keep product in general towards the end. It's all about the people first. Really, that's
Mhm.
what I do at Extensis. We do provide not only a PEO solution for the past 23 years, we do also have an HRO solution, one that can accommodate folks without really any sort of underwriting. Think of it as PEO as us bringing them into our world as far as the
Mhm.
small, medium-sized business goes. And
Yes.
an HRO, ASO type of option is us going into their world and
Right.
customizing a solution, configuring it around, in some cases, technology and things they already have existing, or in other cases, maybe they want us to build something from the ground up, not just doing human resources consulting and payroll. Perhaps they need, time and labor, time and attendance, record keeping types of functions.
Mhm.
Perhaps they need recruiting services help, getting the right people into the doors in the first place. And again, recruiting gets kind of differentiated from onboarding. It's like recruiting is you're getting the right people into the mix.
Mhm.
Onboarding is, okay, you've decided which of those people you're actually going to move forward with at the company, and now you need to get those people acclimated to your people and get them to learn your process at the company. So
Mhm.
again, the ideas of these types of models are very similar, but PEO, co-employment arrangement, you're almost outsourcing the employer of record responsibilities, and
Sure.
HRO, the employer remains the employer of record, but in general, dedicated human resources people first. And obviously, in order to keep the people around, you need to pay them, so you need to
Mm.
process payroll. Those are kind of foundational parts of this, but having good people and good process typically leads itself to the right products. So
Mm.
I know that's a long-winded answer to a question, but there's some subtle differences between the two.
Well, Stephen, see, you as an attorney, I like to think words are everything. You say long-winded, I say comprehensive. You say long-winded, I say thorough. So actually, that was a very thorough answer, and I have some thoughts about it, some observations from my perspective as an employment lawyer, but we do have to take a commercial break. So your timing is actually right on the money. We're just up at a break right now, folks. So stick around, and we'll be right back with Stephen Frey from Extensis, and we'll talk more about PEOs, HROs, the differences, and how they might benefit you. So stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Hey, all you listeners, looking to boost your business? Why not advertise on Talk Radio NYC with very reasonable rates? Interested? Simply send us a message on our website, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Graham Dobbin. Join me every Thursday evening for the Mind Behind Leadership here on TalkRadio.NYC. We speak to people from business, sport, military, and politics, all around what makes a great leader. The personal experiences of what's worked and, maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked. So that's 7 o'clock every Thursday evening, the Mind Behind Leadership here on TalkRadio.NYC. Listen to real stories of real leaders.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm Eric Sauber, host of the show and employment law business law attorney at the law office of Eric M. Sauber. Here speaking tonight with Stephen Frey from Extensis Group, National Sales Manager, and also from the show Always Friday on Talk Radio NYC. And I'm being told through the grapevine that you have an audience tonight and somebody who knows Stephen's show, familiar with Always Friday, who had a request for Stephen to see Stephen in his signature sunglasses, which is part of his Friday vibe. So, Stephen, if you're so inclined and you ask me in the break, sure, I see no reason why not. Right? It's our show. It's free country.
I appreciate the request, and I do feel that most the clarity around small and medium-sized business and their leadership and their trusted advisors does often happen on Friday when people feel the freedom of the weekend coming. So, here's to feeling free for a little bit.
Oh, there you go. Right. Well, do that, folks. Okay. Very, very cool. I think actually I tried that on your show, just in jest, and I realized that the first time I'd ever been on a Zoom call wearing sunglasses, just not something. But we do things differently here on Talk Radio NYC, right? We kind of like to let our hair down a bit. So, so going back, to the topic here and the PEO and HRO, well, I appreciate the model, the differentiation, and you talked a bit about like. The PEO is sort of almost as if it's an analogy of a union. It's kind of like, hey, you're coming into our house, and we, the PEO, are the employer of record. And what I've found as an employment lawyer is that a lot of business owners they're swamped. I mean, they have too much on their plate as it is, and that includes the people that they look after, their employees, their independent contractors, the difference between the two, which I help them to distinguish. They're swamped with their services they provide. Administrative hassles, contracts to sign. So it's easy to let certain things slip through the cracks and also to not know what the law requires. So the way I often talk to my clients as business owners is that if you have a PEO or a reputable HRO, right, a human resource outsource model, like the way Stephen described, and they're worrying about, let's say, you're correctly doing the onboarding process, that your pay stub and paychecks the paychecks that employees receive has the right line item sort of deductions for taxes. These are just my observations, no question pending, sort of observations from my perspective. And also so you see that the business get the benefit of having that burden relieved, not having to know all the different nuances, for example, when it comes to if they're restaurants and they have tip pooling, knowing what's taken from the front of the house, back of the house. That being said, I think it's important for business owners to be aware of the law, because you can't simply offboard all of your duties and responsibilities onto the co-employer. It's an important point to make. But to Stephen's point, these are definitely models that help with these key issues. So, we talked. So my next question I had, Stephen, I wondered is, for our listeners out there, what factors should business owners consider when they're trying to decide between whether to join a PEO or an HRO? You mentioned some, but what are some other factors that we might have to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think you were going down a good road just now too, Eric, with the idea of risk mitigation. It's I look at risk as there's two types of risk out there. There's calculated risk and there's trial by fire. And if there's one thing that drives me crazy in this industry, it's, a lot of times small, medium-sized business leaders, their management, they think they're looking at a trial by fire situation, trying to figure something out, when really it's calculated risk. It's just trying to, just proceed the right way, having the right partners, the right people around you, and just having a good type process for it. But one of the biggest things that business owners and their management should consider when they're looking at a PEO or an HRO type of model. And again, we're really talking about a people and process solution here. You want to, everything as it relates to HR is bringing home best practices for the people who work for you and for the clients that you're trying to serve. That's the name of the game with all of this. So first things first, when you're exploring these types of solutions, very simple question to ask yourself is, well, are you looking at this as a necessary evil? Employees need to get paid? Or are you looking at it as your employees are your biggest asset? Because, when you really care about your employees and you're invested in their growth, and the idea of, train your employees so that they're skilled enough to leave, but treat them so that they never want to. If that's your mentality, then a PEO or HRO type of model is a phenomenal partner for an organization. And I would contrast that with, if a particular SMB or business owner, management, if they're looking for a cheaper alternative to the current payroll arrangement or the current health insurance arrangement, and that's why they're looking at, a dedicated HR and payroll solution, it might work for them, it might not. It's something that a lot of folks will, look at those types of solutions hoping to save money, and that's the only way they look at it. When in reality, a people solution is a very conceptual type of product. It's, okay, everybody can, if I put 5 business owners next to each other, at the end of the day, all 5 of them might move forward with a PEO or HRO solution for different reasons. And, again, that's not necessarily all at once. A lot of times these solutions are so comprehensive compared to, just a standalone payroll solution, which, a lot of times they get compared to each other and it's like apples and oranges. These types of solutions are so comprehensive. It's not just if somebody's looking to, we do this company for payroll, can you save us a couple bucks over it? That's not really the discussion. It's more of, well, what are your goals as a business? What are the primary goals? What are the secondary goals? If you get those done, what are the tertiary goals? And how do you plan to accomplish that? And who are you going to use to accomplish that? These types of platforms, sometimes a prospect client will move forward with the idea of using 30 to 40% of what's available immediately, and they'll save the rest for down the road. Some of them will use 70 to 80% of it immediately because that's what their needs are. But at the end of the day, a lot of people, a lot of folks out there that look at these types of solutions, they will move forward with them for different reasons. But probably the biggest thing to consider, and this is why I'm so hell bent on this type of philosophy, is really people first, then process, then product. Are you focused on your people? Are you people centric? Are you trying to promote a positive employee culture? Are you trying to be an employer of choice? These are all the types of questions that folks should ask themselves. Or are they striving to be an employer of choice? Are they striving for best practices and they know that they want to get there, but they're not there yet? Those are some of the biggest reasons to look at these types of platforms in detail, and really at the end of the day, if somebody's looking at something like this because, oh yeah, it might be a couple bucks cheaper than their current solution, a lot of times the same people will look the very next year, because that's just the way that they evaluate how to make decisions regarding the business, it's just like, hey, maybe we could save a couple more bucks next year. It's not really, about all of that. It's really ask yourself, how do you feel about your people? Do you want the business to grow? What are your growth plans? Those are the types of questions where you can look at a PEO HRO type of solution as a strategic partner, where a lot of people look at it as a commodity. And that's just it's not the way to look at it. It's, years ago I worked in the mortgage industry, and the mortgage industry, I loved being able to creatively finance properties and knowing how to run the numbers and get it all to line up, knowing which product fit where. I liked all of that, but I hated the idea that you could do a whole bunch of work with a particular client or opportunity, and then if somebody down the street has a rate that's an eighth of a point cheaper, that was the main driving factor in most of those decisions. And even myself nowadays, the way that I look at it, something like that, it's almost equally important for me to look at the person who's working on the mortgage and go, well, how well do they know the underwriting guidelines? Like, how well do they know their world? Are they an expert at their profession? It's like, in order to do business with each other, there's only three things that need to happen. People have to like you, they have to trust you, and they have to think you know what you're talking about, that you're a subject matter expert, that you're a leader of your field. And that's the type of feeling that the PEO HRO type of world solution really should deliver, and that's what we really strive for at Extensis. It's people first all the time. It's the most important question at the end of the day that my senior leaders and my colleagues, they want to hear is, have you guys decided that this type of approach and this team, these are the right people for you, these are the right partners? Because really, if they're not, like, nothing else is going to work after that. It's the same way that normal business operates. If you don't, good help is hard to find. That type of concept is like, if you're having trouble finding good quality employees to promote a good quality positive culture, then everything starts there. You got to make sure that's good. So again, it's the biggest factors business owners consider. Are they looking to grow? Do they care about their employees? Do they want to invest in their employees? Do they want to invest in their company? Because folks that are using just pure very reliant payroll solutions, there are ones out there that basically let you do everything yourself, and then you just print it off and give everybody the checks.
They're the ones that often make mistakes and come to me then
to help have you argue on their behalf.
There are so many things that I can relate to, identify with as an employment law attorney. I'm told I have some mic feedback, so I'm trying to change that as we speak. But what I'm hearing is, it's better now. A few things, if I may, jump in, and by way of identification and to sort of amplify your points. One, the idea that selecting an HRO or PEO solution service provider, it's not just about saving a few quick bucks or doing a price shopping. I know as an attorney, very often you get people that call you, some people they're recommended and they're really interested in, can you give them quality service and for the long run, and they're invested in the long haul. And others, of course, will go quickly to, how much do you charge for this? How much do you charge for that? And then we'll make a few calls, and if someone charges $100 less or whatever, they'll go with that person. But they're not then often focused on the quality. And I think that when you focus on a few pennies and you lose quality, you become penny wise and pound foolish. And the other thought that comes to mind before the commercial break, a couple of us. One, the idea of people, when you talk, Stephen, about your Extensis philosophy and your philosophy, you want to invest in your people because they help to, they basically drive the business, they keep it successful. It's looking at it as motivating your people, treating them well. I find from an employment lawyer's perspective that companies that have that in philosophy tend to have, just by not even by correlation, it's not a coincidence, but they tend to have much fewer issues of employee conflict that escalate, fewer issues of employees suing for discrimination and harassment. Not all the time, but a lot of times, if you're truly focused on and concerned about your employees' well-being, such that you'd invest in the right plan with the right company like Extensis, for example, then the chances are you're actually focused on what's going on in the workplace. And it's not just about, am I giving my employees the bare minimum? It's because I have clients that ask me, what's the least amount of paid time off I'm supposed to give my employees under New York state law? And I'll tell them.
And do you ask them back, is that the results that you're hoping for? Is that your employees do the absolute bare minimum needed to keep their job?
Often I'll quote, if they're depending on the person, their personality, I might quote from Office Space, if I may, which is that will just give the sort of the bare minimum, and the fear-based motivation is just enough to keep somebody at the level where they'll do their job to the minimum without getting fired. And so, throwing in the extra incentive, the positive, the carrot rather than the stick, I think is very important. So I actually often encourage my clients, from a business point of view and legal, to this is what the law requires as the floor, but I encourage you to go past that to a ceiling. And we have to do for a commercial break. So with that, I'm going to turn over to our sponsors and our commercials. So everyone stick around. We'll be right back for this really interesting conversation with Stephen Frey from Extensis.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show, A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a curious person, always asking questions? Do you desire to be in the know? Then join me, Antonia, host of So Now You Know, Thursdays at 5 p.m. at TalkRadio.NYC. Listen in as I attempt to satisfy that curiosity. I will be talking with amazing, everyday people. Join the fun. So Now You Know on Thursdays at 5 p.m. at TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney and host of the show. I have with me tonight Stephen Frey, the SMB guy, small medium-sized business consultant who also works as national sales manager for Extensis. And we've been talking tonight, for those that may have joined us late, about PEOs and HRO models for businesses and how a business can outsource some of its payroll, its people and process focused services such as onboarding, recruiting, compliance with the law. And what Extensis Group, what I hear from Stephen, is focused on, and by all means, Stephen, correct me if I'm, or feel free to add to this, but what I hear is that you're focused on the people of the business, of your clients, that is, their people and their process, and that the philosophy is not so much of, hey, you're a business and you need Extensis Group to get some commodity of X, like X being, say, a little bit of help with this, payroll services, or that you can do things piecemeal, but that the ideal philosophy here, approach, is to look at everything from HR services, as on your screen there, to benefits services, to compliance, to look at the whole picture and to sort of evaluate, what's best for you. Do you have a lot of employees? Are they high-risk employees for issues around injuries and workers' comp? Are they low risk? So all these factors go into, if I'm not mistaken, how Extensis Group and how you might help a business owner to see if an HRO or a PEO model is right. Is that accurate so far?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of it as a dedicated HR and payroll solution. Everything starts there. And if you look at the top here where it says HR services, HR services is people. It's the people who are working for you. It's how you're treating them, and how the culture works, and then how you guys are actually going outside of your walls, and how you guys actually treat clients. It's all, a lot of it comes down to setting very clear process as well. So People first and then process. Then, you talk about things like group benefit consulting and administration and risk and compliance work. Very often that's almost seen like a product, not only to small and medium-sized business owners, but in some cases to the financial advisors and insurance brokers that they end up partnering with. It's just almost like, yeah, let me play matchmaker with the right product for you. And, really, again, these are, all categories that revolve around the people first and foremost, and in some cases, both the employees and the employer all at once. And then, really having a good tight process, especially as it relates to orchestrating group benefits on both the healthcare side and the retirement side and the group life side. All of that stuff there's more than just matching up a product and somebody having a license to sell said product.
Right.
It's a lot more of a strategic conversation than people give it credit for. And again, like to that end, it's HR services first, people. This I would consider kind of a hybrid. It still revolves completely around the people, gets a little deeper into the process. It's each one, like group benefits. If you look at financial services and 401k, 401k is like its own language and own business within the business. Like same thing with group health benefits, as opposed to folks that are, partnering with individuals to provide individual life policies, totally different circumstances. These, when you become a small and medium-sized business owner, which a lot of folks do, just pursuing their passion. So just doing what they went to school for, just doing what they trained to do from an early age, whatever it is, it's, sometimes they become accidental business owners. And this is like, okay, no matter what, no matter if it's a small, medium, large, mega sized business, there has to be some type of HR function with these types of other periphery going on. Like there has to be some type of function to make sure that the people are there, the people are engaged, the people are working, and the business is staying afloat. But a lot of times with people who are SMBs and go into business just as a result of their own passions and some of their own labors, a lot of that gets glossed over in favor of just getting moving, which a lot of people can relate to out there. And then finally at the end of what I'm showing you just on my screen is human resources information systems, having a technology that drives all of this. So again, I think of things in terms of people first, process, then product. So these are some of the big services that we would claim to offer: human resources services, group benefits consulting and administration, risk and compliance services, and human resources information system technology. People, process, product. Really, in reality, the product at the end, where a lot of people look these days, especially in the age that we're in, where there's apps every 5 minutes that do something better than the last one, and TVs that seem to do everything on their own at this point, and Alexa controlling our entire house. Everybody is all about the product, which again, I love being conscious of product. I like keeping abreast of the industry and what's new and what's changing and what's on the horizon. But there is no substitute for a good process, and that process has to have good people behind it. The HRIS type of technology, the human resources information system technology we use, it's just the engine that helps us deliver the infrastructure, the foundation of the dedicated human resources people and the dedicated payroll process.
And along those lines, Stephen, I would say that when you talk about people, process, and product, and how people and process is so important to the business owner, within my experience as a small law firm, I don't think it's a business owner, of course, but also as a professional service provider and attorney, that philosophy of putting people and process first while staying abreast of the product is not only a good one for the business owner to have, but a good one for the service provider. So if, let's say, and I know we've talked about this issue in different ways over maybe the last month or so. I think we talked about it when I was a guest on your show. And the idea that, if you're just looking, say, online to download some technology that will give you some sort of automated HR assistance without a group like Extensis or like yourself, a person that can integrate everything, that understands what your goals are, what are you looking to do as a business? What are your risks? What are your liabilities? How are you different than other business owners? I think when you factor that in, it definitely pays to have a service provider like yourself that focuses on people and process. So, to me, that's an important distinction. And it kind of brings me, just an observation I had there, to a question I had about, well, actually, I think you answered a bit about why a business owner should go with a company like Extensis. And I think you gave us a really good answer around that. Unless you want to add something.
I'll give you some differentiators for sure about the Extensis Group and how we attack things.
Mhm.
But I loved what you were saying about, again, the focus about the people and process. Obviously, it resonates very deeply with me. Think of it this way. You can go online, Google, cell phone, whatever you want these days, and you can find a map and a compass,
Sure.
right? And that's a metaphor for anything out there that's helping you really to try to help yourself find your way. But if you're lost in the wilderness, and believe me, a lot, and I feel like you can attest to this really well, a lot of small and medium-sized business owners, when it comes to HR, payroll, and administrative functions, they feel like they're lost in the wilderness compared to their normal passion and subject matter expertise.
Sure.
If you're lost in the wilderness and those night noises start, and it gets dark at 4:30 here these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be fumbling around for the map and the compass? Or do you want a guide to take you through the wilderness? It's far too often these days where some of the opportunities and the folks that I'm talking to, they've tried over the course of last handful of years, even the last 5-10 years, licensing different technologies and buying different things and hiring consultants and trying to figure out like what product, what magic wand, what new shiny mousetrap is really going to solve all their problems.
Right.
And they kind of skip over the fundamental stuff. And again, like just so strongly I feel about it, it's if you're surrounding yourself with the right people and you have a good tight process, it's going to ultimately lead you to the right products. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, just if I may, not to interrupt you, but by way of identification and relating, there are so many people out there who, if they want to, they can go online. They can say Google, I need a template, write a contract for this, a master service agreement. I need a statement of work, or I need an employee handbook, and you can download a template, but you might have a nuanced time now with COVID-19 where there are things that
that don't
right, exactly.
Don't apply, or different state, you hit the nail on the head. The employee handbook is a great one to think about. It's right. Like, you can pay thousands of dollars to have one done for you, customized, or you can get one for $29.99 off of a shelf somewhere. Like that's just a template, but it's just a matter of everything in life, whether it's personal or business, there's some type of give and a take. And when you have, a service model that's just going to deliver, as you said before, the bare essentials that folks need to get by, like the bare requirements, what that does is it leaves the small, medium-sized business owner as the one. It's basically incumbent upon them to do all the heavy lifting. And if it's not something that they're trained for, it could be disastrous. So it's like I would use the analogy in the financial services world, which I have lots of folks I work with. Extensis, just so you know, by the way that we tend to go to market, is really not only as an extension of the small and medium-sized business, but also of their trusted advisors, of the financial and insurance professionals and the tax preparers, things like that, who are really advising the small to medium-sized business on really where they need to go. But you need help navigating some of these waters. It's not just a plug and play type of solution.
Few things in life are, and I mean, I think the map and the compass is a great analogy. I wouldn't mind if I borrow that with my clients if I speak to them, because it's true. You don't want to be trying to figure it out, so in the dark wilderness when you're confused and you're running a business and you're already focused on, let's say, deadlines related to your product or your service or your business or
no problem. You could borrow it. I just want a quarter every time you say.
Not a problem. We'll talk to my friend who's an IP attorney. We'll work on all that.
Intellectual property attorneys, no problem.
Yeah, verbal TM, exactly. Exactly, IP, right. So,
but where I was going with that, also, again, from the financial services world is, very often you can't, thinking of a bunch of analogies like this, it's like, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Like you can't just try to jam something in there without figuring out who it's not really about the shiny new mousetrap. It's about who's moving the cheese. That's what's really the most important thing here.
And I think, that's a great point to break for a commercial with, but absolutely, I'm with you 100%. I share that philosophy with my clients when I help them with their employment law, business law issues, and usually the ones that are really respectful of the idea that this is a process and this is something that requires a level of expertise and knowledge, they tend to be much more open to solutions. And the ones that are sort of like, hey, I'm gonna do this on my own and occasionally use you for a quick answer, it's a little difficult to actually get success on their side. So we have to take a break, folks. I'll be back with Stephen when I come back. Maybe Stephen can tell us a little about his show, Always Friday on TalkRadioNYC. Stick around. I'm Eric Sarver, Employment Law Today. We'll be right back.
Listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Frey, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.NYC.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm Eric Sauver, employment law and business law attorney and principal and founder of the law office of Eric M. Sauver. I'm here tonight with my special guest, Stephen Frey, the SMB guy, small medium business guy, and also the national sales manager for the Extensis Group. And Stephen, we just had really great conversation about people and process and about some major themes here, from Stephen's show, from our show and Stephen's contribution to the show about, looking at the big picture, about the benefits of focusing on quality and a comprehensive package as opposed to just sort of narrowly picking and choosing certain products. We talked about the benefits of seeing people in your business as the main driving force of your business. And if you look at the services of HRO as like a necessary evil you have to do, because, it's just required, then you might miss out on some of the benefits of the philosophy or the approach of, hey, I want to make my business the best that it can be. How do I do that? How do I really treat my people well? And how do I make sure they're taken care of with their HR and other related needs? So just some thoughts there, some observations from our discussion. And pardon me, feel so dry. Take a little water here before we go into Stephen. Okay, that's better. Stephen, if I may, you had a couple of thoughts you wanted to share about Extensis, and I want to also give you the opportunity to share about your talk radio show, Always Friday. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Again, I appreciate you having me on this evening. Going back to Extensis for a moment, it's, there's three big differentiations that come to mind for me, as somebody who's been around the small and medium-sized business landscape for the past 2 decades as, consultant, advocate, enthusiast, owner at some points. First things first is that, and you could probably attest to this too. It's like, working with a team like I do at Extensis, it's truly the best of both worlds of big corporate America, and startup type of company mentality. The company's been around for 23 years, since 1997, so it's definitely not a startup company. It is privately held, so it is not a publicly traded entity. I do find in my travels that working for like for yourself, like you've formed your own law firm. The folks that go off on their own as small, medium-sized businesses and kind of eat, sleep, and live, breathe some of this stuff. A lot of times, especially if you're in a professional service type of setup as, an attorney, an accountant, or working in the HR consultancy space, it really gives you the best opportunity to do what's best for the client, not necessarily what's best for the shareholders of an organization or what they think is the best idea just by hearing certain buzzwords around. It really lets you take a position of doing what's best for the client and determining who's the right client for you and are you the right fit for that client. That's a very important piece of this. When you're talking with any type of people solution, I think it's an important question to ask. The second big differentiator to me is, not only do we work as an extension of small, medium-sized business owners, we work as an extension of their trusted advisors. So I like to think that one of my big superpowers is being a good geek translator, in between, the small, medium-sized business owner and the folks that are steering them, whether it's, a CPA on the tax side of things, a financial advisor on the money side of things, an insurance broker on the protection side of things, or on the health, and wellness side of things. It's great to be able to bridge all of those gaps, but it also just to be able to provide a great solution in partnership with the trusted advisors is a phenomenal approach, and it's one that I wouldn't trade for anything. And the third big thing is that when you work in this type of space, and you can attest to this as well, working on behalf of small, medium-sized business owners, their employees, and employment issues potentially, is you really need to have a type process for your service model, not only for the entity, but for the employees working for them. And I could say with, no sort of false modesty that, we hang our hat on the service. It's very, very big on the red carpet activation and white glove service side of things. It's more of a solution focused type of approach where if there's something that even needs to be figured out, we figure it out together, and we have decades of experience amongst all of us, some from big corporate America, some that were small, medium-sized business owners on their own. And it is a very happy marriage together with not only our clients and the trusted advisors, but with my personal philosophies of people first, process, then product.
If I may relate to that, one thing I enjoy about being a self-employed attorney is that when I deal with clients, I don't have to answer to, let's say, in a large firm. And I don't mean to knock large firms; they certainly have their place and their resources. But the sort of like the bottom line of how many billable hours is the client worth, or focusing more on the client that's paying the bigger bill. For me, it's about which client matter is more pressing, more urgent at the moment. Is there a deadline to be met? Is there an issue that's right to be resolved? So I can appreciate how the difference between Extensis and, let's say, a publicly traded company. Well, no need to name them. We know which ones they are, but just that they're different, and that you're giving a more personal, detailed approach, and that whole translation component. Knowing certain finance and your degrees and such. I didn't mention your AIFA and other degrees you have, and I introduced you there, but I know you're accredited.
Yep. Yeah. Being a fiduciary geek is another one that's really big on the process side of things and best practices. And to your point of what you were just saying, there's a lot to the idea of the Goldilocks approach as it relates to not only, the people types of solutions out there, but, the big publicly traded types of vendors versus, mom and pop shops. There's too hot, too cold, and there's just right. Right. And I do truly feel that the way that this type of solution is positioned, again, having the flexibility of doing a professional employer organization approach for where it's the best fit, because face facts, when the client in question is a fit for that model, it is one of the best discussions that they can have as far as the type of model. But the fact remains, and nobody knows what the future holds with underwriting guidelines and whatnot, that a lot of businesses are not a fit, and these same businesses are still looking for dedicated human resources, dedicated people help. and dedicated payroll processing and connectivity with other aspects of their being. So again, I'm very big, and you know this from my show, is, you know, people first, process, and then product. I do also believe very strongly in the method before the madness. So there is a method, there is madness, a lot of things that you and I've seen out in the field together. But also message, what you're supposed to take away from it. And that is that, you know, like a big part of this is, you know, something that can often be seen as a commodity. It's like, you need people, you need to pay them to keep them around. If you have a business, is so much deeper than that. Primary goals, secondary goals, tertiary goals, strategic growth plans. You know, it's way deeper than that. And the folks that are really looking to take their business to the next level with the right types of partners, there's a number of studies over the last 15 years, a few different ones, that say using these types of services help business owners, their management, their staff get back anywhere from 20 to 30% ROI, whether it's time, money, or a combination of the two. And I love seeing studies like that, and I love being a part of trying to bring that solution to folks' doorsteps.
And speaking of you as an individual in your role, we have a minute or so left, and time flies when you're having fun. But can you, in the next minute, maybe talk a little bit about your show, like just, you know, what day, time, Friday, 10:45?
Yep. Again, I do feel very strongly that most of the clarity around small and medium-sized business and their trusted advisors happens on Friday, when we feel the freedom of the weekend coming. My last name, Frey, is German for free. So I do like to marry those concepts together. So yeah, Always Friday is on TalkRadio.NYC at 11 a.m. I have started setting up my socials for Always Friday, as far as Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. We'll get some content out there shortly for you guys, but you can always go to TalkRadio.NYC for the podcast archives and any other assorted tidbits.
Again, that's Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for those that might be watching from another coast, whatnot. And excellent, Stephen. I must say, it's been great having you on the show tonight. Once again, everyone, Stephen Frey from Always Friday on TalkRadioNYC, talking about issues involving small and mid-sized businesses, and also having some fun, entertaining them along the way. There we go. I remember that from our show. There we go. See, that's kind of fun you can have on a Friday. Once again, Stephen's also with Extensis Group, and I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney. I like to help small businesses and mid-sized companies as well with their employment law, labor law issues. And if this show can shed some light on those issues, then it's just makes me so happy. So, Stephen, thank you for being here. We've got to wrap up, but folks, if you like the show, tune in Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on TalkRadio.NYC. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're listening to Talk Radio